You're listening to Rewriting the Rules, the podcast that dares to go deeper than training. I'm Bethany Bell, creator of the Canine Dialogue Dynamics method, and this is where behaviour meets relationship, science meets the soul, and obedience takes a backseat to understanding. Let's change the conversation. Welcome back to Rewriting the Rules. In today's episode, we're going to be speaking about raising puppies naturally, beyond training and control. Bringing a puppy home can feel magical and overwhelming. Suddenly, you're flooded with advice from trainers, books, social media, even strangers in the park. Everyone seems to have a checklist of what you must do. Crate training, obedience classes, endless socialization, 18 to 20 hours of sleep. It's enough to make your head spin. But what if puppyhood doesn't have to be this way? And what if the real key isn't about ticking boxes or controlling every movement, but about creating a safe foundation where your puppy learns naturally through trust, connection, and dialogue? In today's episode, we're going to step back and rethink puppyhood. We'll look at some of the most common myths that cause stress for both puppies and their people, and explore a more gentle, natural way to guide your puppy as they grow. Because raising a puppy isn't about perfection, it's about relationship. And when we focus on emotional grounding instead of control, we give our dogs the best chance to grow into confident, connected companions. So myth number 1 is you need to train your puppy straight away. One of the very first things that new puppy parents are told is you've got to start training immediately. Sit, stay, lie down, leave it, walk to heel, and the pressure can feel enormous, as if you're already falling behind if your puppy doesn't master these things in the first week. But let's just pause for a moment. Your puppy has just left everything familiar, their mum, their litter mates, the only world they knew. They're navigating an entirely new environment, new smells, new people, new rhythms. The most important thing they need right now is not a checklist of behaviours, it's a sense of safety. Puppies are learning all the time, of course, but in these early days, the learning that matters the most is relational. They're learning whether they can trust you, whether the world feels predictable and safe, and how to communicate with you, and how you respond when they try. This is why in the CDD method we talk about teaching rather than training. Training is just one small part of teaching, and it comes later, when the relationship has been built and the puppy feels secure. Teaching in these first few weeks looks more like gentle word association, narration in daily life, and helping your puppy make sense of the world in a way that feels calm and reassuring. For example, instead of drilling sit on day 2, you might softly say, let's go to bed, when they settle down in their bed. Or are you tired? Or let's go outside as we open the door to the garden. These little moments become the building blocks of language, and because they're woven into real life, they build trust rather than pressure. Let me give you a few examples of what I mean. When you carry your puppy to the garden first thing in the morning, instead of focusing on how quickly they go to the toilet, you might say gently, do you need to go out for a wee? Let's go to the garden. As you open the door, over time, those little words become meaningful, not because you've drilled them, but because you've paired them with real life experience in a natural way. Or imagine you're making a cup of tea. Your puppy comes to investigate, so you talk them through it. Just putting a kettle on, making myself a cup of tea. Do you want a drink or your breakfast? Okay, I'll just wait till the kettle stops. Can you hear that noise? That's just the kettle going, nothing to worry about. They're not learning obedience here. They're learning your rhythm, your voice, your calm presence. They're learning about everyday moments. That's teaching. It's giving them context for the world around them. Another example is when your puppy flops down for a nap. Instead of rushing to put them in a crate or telling them what to do, you might just say, you must be tired. Are you having a little rest? Do you want to go to bed for a bit? That way, they'll start to connect those words with the feelings of safety and comfort and not a specific place. These tiny everyday moments are what builds your foundation. They're simple. They don't require any special equipment or a list of commands, just your voice, your presence, and your willingness to guide rather than control. The second biggest myth around puppyhood is that you must socialise them with everyone and everything as quickly as possible. The word socialisation gets thrown around so much that it becomes a pressure in itself. People are told that their puppy must meet 100 different dogs and people in the first few months, or they'll end up fearful or reactive later. So you see people frantically exposing their puppies to busy parks, chaotic puppy classes, and endless introductions, often when the puppy looks overwhelmed. But the truth is that socialization is not about numbers. It's about quality experiences. It's about helping your puppy feel safe in the presence of new things and not bombarding them with novelty for the sake of ticking boxes. And think about it this way, if you were to learn to swim, would you not feel better being gently introduced to the water with someone that you trust beside you, or being dropped into a packed pool with 20 other people splashing around? Puppies feel the same. A calm walk where they can just be and watch the world go by, or meeting one gentle, kind dog at a time. It is far more valuable than a checklist of exposures. And over-socialization often backfires. If a puppy is constantly pushed into noisy, unpredictable situations, they can learn to feel unsafe. And that insecurity can show up later as reactivity or avoidance. What they need instead is choice, space, and the chance to observe. So when we talk about socialization in the CDD method, we're really talking about emotional safety. The question is not, how many people and dogs has my puppy met? It's how safe they felt during those moments. And that's what will shape their confidence as they grow. Let's imagine two very different approaches. In the first, a family takes their puppy to a busy Saturday market. There are crowds, children running around, dogs on lead, pulling and barking, loudspeakers, food smells everywhere. The puppy is being patted by strangers left, right, and centre. From the outside, it might look like great socialization, exposure to all kinds of sounds and sights. And if you really watch the puppy, you might notice that their tail tucks slightly. Their ears are back. Their body is leaning away from the chaos. And that's not confidence being built. That's stress being layered in. But now picture a quieter moment. The same puppy sits in the garden, watching the world go by from behind a low fence. A neighbour walks past and waves from a distance. The puppy notices, sniffs the air, and relaxes. Maybe later the neighbour greets the puppy calmly, crouching down, letting the puppy choose whether to approach. That one gentle moment teaches the puppy more about trust and safety than a dozen rushed introductions at the market ever could. Another example is two puppies in a class. One is excited but quickly becomes overwhelmed by noise and bouncing energy. The other, in a calmer setup, meets just one older, friendly dog in a secure garden. That slower introduction gives the puppy time to watch, smell, and then decide, yes, I feel safe enough to say hello. Socialization done well is not about exposure at all costs. It's about building positive emotional memory. A puppy who feels safe will naturally expand their world as they grow without being pushed beyond their comfort. The irony is that what we often do to try to prevent reactivity, we often end up with a dog with reactivity, because whilst we thought we were doing the right thing, we often push them too far. And another big myth about raising puppies is that they need 18 to 20 hours of sleep every day, and that the best way to achieve this is by enforcing naps in a crate. You'll see this advice everywhere, but it doesn't actually hold up when we look at the research. The Generation Pup study, one of the largest studies of its kind, followed thousands of puppies as they grow. They found that at 16 weeks of age, puppies slept on average around 11.2 hours in a 24-hour period. By the time they were 12 months old, this dropped slightly to around 10.8 hours. That's a far cry from 18 to 20 hours we so often hear about. And when given the choice of where to sleep, nearly 87% of those dogs chose to sleep near their humans, not in isolation. And that tells us something powerful. Rest comes from safety and connection, not confinement. I talk about this in much more depth in my previous episode on crates. So if this sparks something for you, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that one. But the key takeaway here is simple. Puppies don't need enforced crate naps. They need environments that feel safe, rhythms that encourage rest, and the freedom to sleep when they feel tired. For some puppies, that might mean curling up at your feet while you work. For others, it might be a bed tucked into a quiet corner, or a soft mat in the living room where they can snooze while they hear the hum of the family life. They don't need us to shut them away to sleep. They just need us to create spaces where sleep comes naturally. And the last myth I'll be discussing in today's episode is that puppies should only walk 5 minutes per month of age. It's a really common piece of advice. So a 4-month-old puppy would only be allowed 20 minutes of walking a day. This rule is repeated everywhere, often as if it's a scientific fact, but in reality, it's a myth. The idea comes from concerns about joint development, and while of course we want to protect growing puppies from injury, restricting them with rigid formulas often creates more problems than it prevents. Puppies are individuals. Their need for movement, play, and exploration are not identical. One may tire quicker, while another has more stamina. Breed, size, genetics, environment, and even personality all play a role in how much exercise and rest they need. Following a strict time-based rule can actually harm puppies physically and emotionally. If they're prevented from moving enough, they can build up frustration, lose out on valuable opportunities for exploration, and even miss the chance to develop natural strength and coordination. Emotionally, it can make them feel restless, anxious, or lead to outbursts of pent-up energy at home. Instead of relying on numbers, we can let the puppy guide us. When they slow down, flop on the grass, or start to lag behind, that's their way of saying, I need a break. When they bounce up ready to go again, they're telling us, I've got more energy. By watching and listening, we learn to respond to the actual puppy in front of us and not a generic rule on paper. The key here is balance, avoiding streams of either end. Not hours of forced exercise, not climbing mountains, but not rigid restrictions either. Natural rhythms of play, rest, and gentle exploration guided by the puppy themselves build both physical health and emotional resilience. When we step back from all these myths, the enforced crate naps, the strict walking limits, the pressure to socialise with everyone, the push for immediate obedience, we start to see a pattern. Puppyhood has been turned into a checklist of rules to follow. Do this, don't do that. Make sure they can sit by 12 weeks, walk nicely by 16 weeks, and tolerate everything by 6 months. But puppies are not projects. They're little beings in an earlier stage of life, and their deepest need is not to perform perfectly, it's to feel safe. Emotional grounding is what shapes who they become far more than whether they can sit or stay on cue in those first few weeks. Puppyhood is about emotional grounding, not perfection. Grounding means your puppy learns that the world is predictable, that when they feel scared, they can come to you and you'll respond with calm reassurance. That when they communicate with a bark, a paw, a look, you'll notice and you'll respond. That their home is a place where their needs are met and not suppressed. And the beautiful part of this is that when a puppy feels safe and understood, the rest follows naturally. They'll settle into rest because their body is not on high alert. They'll explore with curiosity instead of anxiety, and they'll become resilient because they know their foundation is solid. This does not mean they won't make mistakes or test boundaries. Of course they will. But the difference is that those moments don't define them. What defines them is the trust that grows every time you meet them where they are. Puppyhood is not about raising the perfect dog. It is about layering roots so strong that whatever comes later, adolescence, training, new experiences, your dog always knows where safety lives with you. So if puppyhood isn't about ticking training boxes, what do we do instead? This is where dialogue comes in. Gentle guidance that grows naturally out of everyday life. Dialogue begins with the smallest things. Narrating your routine helps your puppy make sense of the world. Kettle on, shoes on, outside time. These little words said consistently and calmly start to give meaning to your voice. You're not commanding, you're inviting your puppy into an understanding of life alongside you. Questions are another powerful part of dialogue. Instead of dragging your puppy into the garden, try asking, shall we go outside? And notice how they respond. They might bound to the door, or they might hesitate. Either way, you've begun a two-way conversation. You're showing them that their voice matters. Choices also play a huge role. Can your puppy choose which toy to chew, which route to take on a short walk, where to rest in the house? These micro decisions help them build confidence, because every choice tells them that they have some control over their world. And when things don't go smoothly, when they bark, choose something that they shouldn't, or struggle to settle, guidance does not mean scolding. It means stepping into the moment with empathy. I see you need something. What are you telling me? Sometimes the answer is more play, sometimes it's food, and sometimes it's rest. The point is, you're listening. Dialogue isn't about perfect outcomes. It's about shaping a relationship where your puppy learns that communication works, that their needs matter, and that they can trust you to guide them through the world and not control them in it. Because one of the most important things to remember is that every puppy is an individual. There is no one-size-fits-all rule for how long they should sleep and how quickly they should learn or how social they should be. Puppies, just like people, are born with their own personalities and temperaments. Some are bold and adventurous right from the start. Others are cautious and thoughtful. Some pick up words really quickly, and others need more time. And all of this is normal. The problem is that when we compare our puppy to someone else's or the charts in a book, we can easily start worrying that something is wrong. Why isn't my puppy walking perfectly on the lead yet? Why doesn't my puppy like meeting everyone? But your puppy isn't failing. They're simply showing you who they are. When we see our puppy as an individual, we stop trying to force them into someone else's mold. We begin to listen more closely, noticing their unique quirks and building a relationship that works for them. And that is what makes a puppy grow into a confident adult, not ticking off someone else's checklist, but being met exactly where they are. Another pressure new puppy parents often feel is the idea that you must make your puppy independent straight away. Otherwise you'll spoil them or make them clingy. The advice usually sounds like, don't let them sleep in your room. Leave them alone in a crate so they don't get too attached. But the truth is, attachment is not the enemy. In fact, healthy attachment is the foundation of true independence. When they know that their needs will be met, they gradually start to explore and settle on their own. Forced independence, shutting a puppy away alone too soon, ignoring their distress, or refusing comfort, does not build resilience. It builds anxiety. It teaches the puppy that their calls for help go unanswered, so they stop asking. And on the surface, this can look like independence, but underneath it is often shut down. It often changes the brain structure. It shuts down the chance for healthy emotional regulation to develop. But early independence, by contrast, develops naturally when we meet puppies where they are. Maybe at first they need to sleep beside your bed so that they can hear you breathing, and over time they might choose a bed slightly further away. Maybe they follow you from room to room for the first few weeks. That's normal. Some dogs even do this in adulthood. The more their confidence grows, the more comfortable they'll feel resting in another space. It's not about forcing separation. It's about nurturing security until independence grows from within. And that kind of independence is far more stable because it's rooted in trust and not fear. Puppyhood isn't a race to the finish line. It's a season of laying foundations. And that season will look slightly different for every single puppy. The more we release ourselves from the pressure of getting it right, the more space we have to notice and celebrate who our puppy really is. And before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one more reflection. When you picture life with your puppy, not just now, but in the years ahead, what do you imagine? Do you want a dog who's blindly obedient, who performs behaviors on command, even if it means losing their autonomy, their choice, and their voice? Or do you want to raise a dog who thinks, who feels, who chooses, and who trusts? Because the choices we make in puppyhood lay the foundation for the future. Every time we allow a puppy a choice, every time we respond to their communication, every time we guide instead of control, we are shaping not just their behavior, but their very sense of self. Autonomy does not mean chaos. It means raising a dog who can make good choices because they've been given the safety and space to practice decision-making. It means raising a dog who doesn't just obey because they must, but who cooperates because they want to. So ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to have with your dog? One built on compliance or one built on connection? So as we bring this episode to a close, I want to remind you of something important. Raising a puppy is not about control or ticking boxes or chasing perfection. It's about laying down the roots of safety, trust, and connection, roots that will support your dog for the rest of their life. And when we raise them this way, what grows is so much more than obedience. We grow a relationship that lasts a lifetime. A dog who doesn't just respond because they have to, but because they want to. A dog who can make safe choices, who feels safe in a world and who knows that their human is their partner. If this resonates with you and you'd like to explore puppyhood in more depth, I have a whole book dedicated to it in my book, Raising Puppies Naturally. It's full of stories, examples, and guidance to support you through those precious early months. I'd love to leave you with a short poem from this book because I think it captures the heart of everything we've been talking about today. To begin with love. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to have all the answers. You only need to be willing to pause, to listen, to begin. They arrive as they are, fur soft, eyes wide, carrying questions that the world forgot how to ask. They do not seek to obey. They seek to understand. They do not wait for control. They wait for connection. You are not here to command them. You are here to walk beside them, through silence and sunrise, through shadow and stillness, through every tiny miracle of becoming. They will not learn through pressure. They will learn through presence. They will not grow through correction. They will grow through trust. This is not a checklist. It's a conversation. This is not a method of control. It is a movement of the heart. And if you're holding this book with hope in your chest and softness in your hands, then you have already begun. My book, Rewriting the Rules, Raising Puppies Naturally, is available through Amazon on my shop. If you would like your own copy and a signed copy, please do contact me privately, as I do have stock that I can send to you. In our next episode, we'll be taking the same lens of curiosity and compassion into another misunderstood area of dog life. The myth of the calm dog. What does calmness really mean?